Atëherë, përshëndetje, mirëmëngjes të gjithëve. Hello, hello and good morning. I'm Dedis Ripali, the Executive Director of European Movement Albania. Thank you for participating and registering in the first session of the working group, Regional Policy and Coordination of Structural Instruments. We have the pleasure to be co-organizers with Albanian Development Fund, and we thank them for their participation and their assistance to holding this joint working group together. We will have simultaneous translation in the part of the presentation, so we are waiting for the interpreter to join us. I will switch to Albanian to explain a little bit of the convention, but first I would like to give the floor to to Mr. Ermal Iliriani, who is the head of the programming unit at the Albanian Development Fund. And again, I'd like to thank him for the support and for the cooperation in this working group and in this project. Zoti Ermal, fjala është për ju. Ju falenderoj për gjithë angazhimin tuaj dhe mbështetjen nga Fondi I Zhvillimit. Jeni I mirëpritur për një fjalë përshëndetëse të aktivitetit.
Falenderoj. Ta bëj dhe unë anglisht fjalën apo të vazhdojmë në shqip? Dëgjohem? Arrit të dëgjohem?
Një sekund.
Okej.
Okej, dëgjojeni.
Atëherë po them dhe unë po flas dhe unë në shqip pjesën hyrëse, duke kuptuar që ka një përkthim anglisht. Ju falenderojmë juve për angazhimin edhe për ftesën për të qenë pjesë e këtij diskutimi, I cili për ne ka marrë mjaft rëndësi, duke pasur parasysh momentin ku ndodhet vendi për sa I përket integrimit në Bashkimin Evropian, për sa I përket pjesës impulseve të reja që ka marrë për zhvillimin rajonal dhe kohezionin dhe rolin njëkohësisht që Fondi Shqiptar I Zhvillimit ka marrë në këtë proces. Aktualisht, qeveria shqiptare është duke çuar përpara reformën për zhvillimin rajonal dhe kohezionin. Ne sapo kemi kaluar ligjin I cili përkufizon dhe përcakton kuadrin ligjor, fushën e veprimtarisë, institucionet, dokumentat planifikues dhe njëkohësisht institucionet dhe financimin që do të vijojë. Për sa I përket zhvillimit rajonal dhe kohezionit dhe Fondi Shqiptar I Zhvillimit ka marrë një rol aktiv në këtë proces, duke u parashikuar për të qenë autoriteti menaxhues për programin operacional, por njëkohësisht duke qenë në institucioni që në mbështetje të zyrës së zëvendës kryeministrit, që është autoriteti mbi të cilin është ngarkuar zhvillimi rajonal, të asistoj në nivel qendror dhe lokal për përgatitjen e dokumenteve të planifikimit që janë hapi pasardhës dhe ajo që do të definojë linjën e zhvillimit rajonal për të paktën për 7 vitet e ardhshme. Në këtë kontekst, duke qenë se njëkohësisht zhvillimi rajonal dhe kohezioni janë gjithashtu pjesë e kapitullit 22 për si pjesë e negocimit të vendit tonë me Bashkimin Evropian, por njëkohësisht duke pasur dhe synimin që ky program operacional, gjithë struktura e ngritur për zhvillimin rajonal dhe kohezionin, të jetë në përputhje dhe në linjë me shembujt e Bashkimit Evropian, por njëkohësisht për të aksesuar mundësinë për të aksesuar dhe në fondet strukturale, ne shohim me mjaft interes këtë takim, të konferencë, dhe gjithashtu presim që një pjesë të informacioneve që do të dalin apo do të kemi mundësinë të dëgjojmë sot të na shërbejnë ne gjatë këtij procesi në vijim. Sërish ju falenderoj dhe shpresoj që të kemi një komunikim të hapur dhe diskutim të hapur në këtë takim. Faleminderit.
Faleminderit. Ishte me shumë interes dhe për vetë rolin që Fondi Shqiptar I Zhvillimit ka në pjesën e zhvillimit rajonal dhe sidomos dhe pjesën e menaxhimit të fondeve. E dim që ka një eksperiencë të madhe si pak institucione apo agjenci në Shqipëri në lidhje me menaxhimin, zbatimin e projekteve, eksperiencë të gjatë dhe të gjerë shtrirë në gjithë territorin e Shqipërisë. Prandaj është shumë I rëndësishëm si institucion pikërisht kur ne diskutojmë programimin, diskutojmë të ardhmen e fondeve strukturore, mënyrën se si këto fonde do menaxhohen. Unë do doja shkurtimisht të shpjegoja pak konventën, pa ngrënë shumë kohë të gjithëve ne, duke ditur që ka shumë interes pjesa teknike, pra ajo temë cilën ne sot diskutojmë, por duke qenë se një pjesëmarrësve janë për herë të parë në këtë lloj aktivitetesh, do doja 5 minuta shkurtimisht të shpjegoja rolin dhe rëndësinë e konventës europiane, konventës kombëtare të integrimit europian, që është një iniciativë në fakt jo e re, ka mbi 15 vite që aplikohet në vende ndryshme që një pjesë prej tyre janë antarë të Bashkimit Evropian, siç është Slovakia dhe partnerët tanë që na mbështesin në këtë projekt kur zbatuar për herë të parë. Po ashtu, konventa zbatohet aktualisht në Serbi, në Magjzi, në Maqedoni, prej vitesh tashmë, ku kërkohet të ketë një dialog të mirë midis institucioneve shtetërore dhe grupeve të interesit të cilat duan të marrin pjesë në këtë proces dhe kanë së çfarë të japin të kontribuojnë në pjesën e procesit integrimit europian, apo dhe më specifikisht të negociatave, ku është e rëndësishme marrja e mendimit të tyre. Pikërisht dhe konventa kombëtare e integrimit europian synon këtë. Ne kemi realizuar që në vitin 2016 sesionin e parë të konventës, ku kemi targetuar disa nga kapitujt më të rëndësishëm, por jo atë të zhvillimit rajonal. Është hera e parë me konventën nisur që nga 2020 që ne trajtojmë, duke menduar që është shumë e rëndësishme, pikërisht dhe me njësër elementesh dhe Zoti Liriani I parashtroi për të targetuar këtë çështje e cila vërtet është shumë teknike, por është e rëndësishme që dhe pjesa e informimit, të shpjegimit të grupeve ndryshme të interesit të asistojmë edhe në këtë pjesë, përveç se në krijimin e urave dhe dialogut të komunikimit. Ne synojmë nëpërmjet konventës që pikërisht këto tryezat mundet të sjellin informacione të reja, praktika të mira, siç do kemi mundësi dhe nga eksperti slovak në prezantimin e tij, dhe sigurisht një proces të gjerë konsultimi aty ku është e mundur të thithet ekspertiza, eksperienca e ekspertëve apo dhe nevojat e grupeve të ndryshme të interesit. Në konventën e këtij viti ne kemi parashikuar 4 sesione për çdo tematik. Tematikat e tjera për informacion kanë të bëjnë me kapitujt 23-24, pra drejtësia, reforma në drejtësi, po ashtu çështjet e brendshme, siguria, si dhe bujqësia dhe siguria ushqimore, pra së bashku me zhvillimin rajonal mendojmë se këto janë prioritetet e procesit integrimit të paktën në këtë periudhë afat shkurtër, po sigurisht edhe në afat gjatë më pas për të zhvilluar sa më mirë. Nuk do ndalem më shumë sepse dhe koha është e kufizuar sigurisht për gjithë ne. Gjithsesi në informacione të mëtejshme apo dhe nëse keni interes për këto grupe, sigurisht do ju çojmë me email dhe më vonë informacione dhe mënyrën se si mundet të regjistroni dhe në grupe tjera nëse do keni interes. Kam kënaqësinë tashmë të jap fjalën I prej ekspertëve të brendshëm të konventës, zotit Florian Xhafa, I cili ka vite që bashkëpunon me konventën e integrimit, për të mbajtur një prezantim mbi panoramën në Shqipëri të çështjeve të zhvillimit rajonal dhe të programimit të ndihmës Bashkimit Evropian, që do jemi interesën pas do hapin edhe diskutimin mbasi të keni dhe prezantimin e ekspertit slovak, zotit Benc, mbi praktikat më të mira dhe eksperiencat nga Slovakia. Zoti Xhafa, fjala është për ju.
Faleminderit Gledis. Unë po e kthej prezantimin tim në anglisht, meqense kemi rënë dakord paraprakisht për këtë formë. Hello to everyone. Hello, Mr. Benz. It's a pleasure being here today and sharing my knowledge and my experience on this very important topic for Albania, especially now in the frame of preparation for IPA 3.
Dhe në veçanti në kuadrin e fazës përgatitjes.
Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? Okay. So my presentation is focused in three main topics. The first one is the experience of Albania in the use of EU funds. So what Albania has experienced until today in the frame of IPA 1 and IPA 2 programming period. The second topic is the EU membership challenges for Albania under Chapter 22, what Albania is going to face under the negotiation of accession talks. And the third topic is the key differences between management and pre-accession and post-accession in EU assistance. Without losing further time, I will pass directly in the first topic. Let's say that the European Union is de facto the largest donor in Albania. The financial allocations under the instruments for pre-accession, known by the acronym of IPA, and annual country action programs, is accounted for 459 million euros in the programming period 2007-2013, which regards IPA 1, which is the IPA 1 programming period. And some activities under this programming period, under this assistance, is still ongoing, so are still being implemented. And a total of 639.5 million euros for the programming period 2014-2020, which ends this year, and IPA 3 will start 2021-2027. The following sectoral support under IPA 2, just to give you a rough idea where this 639.5 million euros went, is democracy and governance took 32.6% of this sum. The rule of law and fundamental rights used 20.9% of this. And here in the first one and the second one, we're mostly speaking about chapter 23 and 24 of the acquis. Then we have environment, climate change, and energy, only 4.7% of this sum. Transport, 3.8%. Competitiveness, innovation, agriculture, and rural development altogether, where the largest share has de facto been rural development under EPARD, like an EPARD program, is 28.6%. Just to be clear that the EPARD program, it's in its beginning of implementation, so only a small percent of this 28.6% has actually been implemented in Albania. And then lastly, we have education, employment, and social policies with only 9.4% of this sum. So as you see from these figures, the sectors which are typical recipients of funds for investment in infrastructure benefit from rather limited financial allocation. Most of the money provided under IPA 2 has been allocated to chapter 23 and 24. And of course, this goes along with the reform on justice system. However, Albania also participates in other EU-supported programs or EU-financed programs, like the multi-country program covering the 6 Western Balkan states and Turkey, of which the most important is the Western Balkan Investment Framework. since the start of this facility in 2009, Albania has received from WBIF, which is the Western Balkan Investment Framework, grants in the amount of 137.5 million euros, out of which 124.8 million from the EU and 12.7 million from other donors, and has, under the same instrument, has signed loans in the amount of 430 million euros. These are mostly funds which have been used for infrastructure and investments in public works. And of course, a small amount here has also been developed or implemented for the support of SMEs, small medium enterprises. Apart from the WBIF, Albania is also take part in the union programs such as the Horizon, Erasmus, as well as in 8 EU finance cross-border and other territorial cooperation programs, the CBCs. During the current programming period, 2013, 2014, 2020, Albania has had, I mean, for all these programs, there are 4 types of management of IPA funds. The most used one, but I will come to this later, is the direct management with the European Commission or the EU delegation to Albania, which is represented de facto, de jure and de facto, the European Commission, which acts as contracting authority. So under direct management, the scope, the functions of Albanian authorities related to IPA management are rather limited. I will explain this a little bit later in the third topic when we speak about the key differences between management, pre-accession and post-accession management on management of EU funds. Then we have indirect management with international organization or delegated agreements. Through delegated agreements, usually here is UNDP, OSCE, other EU and other international organizations. And then we have indirect management with Albania, or otherwise known with the acronym of IMBC. In this management mode, the assistance is implemented by Albanian authorities through one contracting and financing unit, known with the acronym of CFCU. I'm also explaining the acronyms because probably you will see them in many materials that you can also search upon. And the Albanian CFCU is situated, is part of, is a structure of the Ministry of Finance and Economy, and it acts as contracting authority under the IMBC or indirect management with the beneficiary country, with Albania. Why this is important to explain, why this management, and of course there is another 4th method which is used mostly in the CBC programs, which is called shared management, where we have both IMBC, so indirect management with beneficiary countries, and direct management by the Commission. Direct management by the managing authority, because in some CBC programs, the leading country is an EU member state, therefore is they have the managing authority, and that's the authority responsible for the management of the program. But I believe Mr. Benz will go further in explaining this because it has direct experience and information on this. Going back to the IMBC, in the period, just want to let you know that during the period 2007-2013, out of 459 million of assistance, only 33 million euro, so pertaining of, so more or less 7.36% of total allocation have been implemented through indirect management with the beneficiary country, with IMBC, which means that Albanian authorities were responsible for the contracting and implementation of only 7.36% of the total amount of the programming period 2007-2013, IPA 1. Under IPA 2, only 41 million euros or 10.84% of the total is implemented to indirect management with beneficiary country. So saying the same thing that the contracting authority, the CFCU and other authorities in Albania involved in IPA implementation has been responsible for only 10.84% of the funds under the programming period 2014-2020. This is of course an important evidence that shows that the credibility and how much has been delegated from the European Commission to Albania in the management of EU assistance. That this is an indicator of how much the country is ready or how much of the Chapter 22 requirements the country has implemented. The main assistance provided under the IMBC has been provided under sector reform contracts, which is one method of providing the assistance. So it was not directly contracted, but it was provided to the state budget as state budget support for priorities provided by different strategic documents. So to achieve some indicators of Albanian strategic documents endorsed and implemented. A key element to be mentioned here, or a key indicator, is that we have had during this period, in my view, at least, I'm expressing my sole opinion here, not Emma's opinion. This is also linked with a lot of chaotic changes in the strategic and planning documents of Albania. Therefore, it's been rather difficult even for EU to provide more accountability to the Albanian government, since the objectives and the targets set in strategic framework has been moving pretty fast and has been not too much reliable in being supported with funds in this way of allocation, in this instrument of allocation. Without losing time on this, but of course we can come back to the question and answer session on this. I want to say about I want to say a few words of the structures that are responsible for the indirect management with the beneficiary country, which is rather important. And you will see during the Mr. Ben's presentation why it is and what's the change between what we're doing now and what we will gonna be in terms of management during when we are a member state, let's say. The main authority representing the Republic of Albania during the IPA is the National IPA Coordinator, the NIPAC. The NIPAC, and this is stipulated by the framework agreement signed by the EU and Albania. The NIPAC is responsible for the overall management of the EU funds in Albania, but of course he has no operational functions. NIPAC has mostly monitoring and supervisional functions, and in terms of it relates, so it is responsible together with the Commission as a co-chairing of the IPA monitoring committee, which is annually gathered, and it monitors the implementation, the annual implementation of IPA program in Albania. So both they lead this monitoring committee. So for monitoring by way of interpretation, we can say the NIPAC is responsible for monitoring not only of the IMBC implementation method, but also the direct management and indirect management with development partners, with international organizations, and of course also for the shared management. So NIPAC is the overall, let's say, the highest authority in Albania representing the IPA or monitoring the IPA implementation. By saying that, the main let's say authority responsible for ensuring that the IMBC system, so the system that has managed 10.84% of the EU funds under IPA 2, is NOW. The acronym of NOW stands for National Authorizing Officer. The National Authorizing Officer is de jure and de facto the Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Finance and Economy. Now has the capacity and the obligation to ensure that the implementation system under the indirect management with the beneficiary country is operational and entrustable by the Commission. When I say entrustable, because he ensures that all the requirements that ensure that this system functions correctly and the EU funds are not misused or have a lot of critical points in its management. I mean, the system has a lot of critical points in management. He submits all this system to the Commission, which is then entrusted prior to providing the functions or the authority to manage such funds. So now is the overall institution, the National Authorizing Officer is the institution that ensures the overall management of the IMBC system. And under NOW you have the NOW Support Office, and of course then we have the National Fund, which is responsible for the accountancy of the EU funds or the link between the EU funds and the state budget funds. And then, of course, we have the Central Financing and Contracting Unit, CFCO, which I previously mentioned. By saying this, we cannot dismiss the functions of the Prime Minister Office in Albania, which is crucial in ensuring that all this support and assistance provided by the EU under different strategic frameworks is related, is linked with the strategic framework of Albania. So the strategies and the plans for different sectors and subsectors. And they are also reflected, and is one of the other responsibilities of Prime Minister Office is also to ensure that the MTBP or the medium-term budgeting program of 3-year rolling is linked with the, or is compliant. So it goes hand in hand. I don't know how to explain this. So they're combatching altogether with the EU funds. The Ministry for Europe and Foreign Affairs until now had the NIPAC coordinator, which recently the NIPAC has changed from a hat of the Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs. Now the NIPAC is assigned the chief negotiator, which it sits into the Prime Minister office. Mr. Zetmaz is now both the chief negotiator and NIPAC for Albania. Then we have the whole system within the Ministry of Finance Economy, as I mentioned, now CFCU National Fund. We have the Donor Coordination Department within the Ministry of Finance and Economy, which ensures the coordination of external financial assistance in Albania. So this authority ensures that EU funds and World Bank funds and other international donor funds do not overlap in the assistance they provide. And of course, the last but not least important, less important, are the 19 IPA units established in line ministries and other public institutions. When I say other public institutions, this is to be also highlighted that we don't speak only about institutions pertaining to the central executive, to the government, but we have IPA units also in other central institutions, public institutions, which are independent, like the parliament or regulatory authorities under the parliament. So basically, and this is also something that legally has to be taken into consideration when we speak about NIPAC as the overall as the authority having overall regulatory functions for IPA implementation, and he is right now the chief negotiator, so he's part of the executive. He has to oversight also the functioning of IPA units under authorities which are not part of the government, not part of the executive. So this is an element that should be considered in regulating the system, in order, because the basis of the system is the clarity of division of functions and the control of critical points within the system. In the second topic, I'm passing to the second topic now, the EU membership perspectives and challenges for Albania. You have too much to say, and in the same time, not too much to say, because I'm running out of time, I think. Yes, Gladys? Okay, I'll go faster on this topic because I believe the third one is also too much important. We would say that right now Albania is expecting the official opening of the accession talks. In my view, this is political. This is political in terms of Albania has to achieve certain criteria. So whether Albania performs well on, as far as regards IPA management, as far as it performs well or not well in IPA management, this does not affect the opening of accession talks. So there is no direct link between this. Even in terms of adopting the acquis, I believe that the accession talks in itself are the ultimate exercise in adopting the acquis. So we cannot say that Albania will open the negotiation and this will mean directly that Albania is ready. Of course not. Albania has a very long way ahead. When you open the, in order to open the accession talks after the opening up of the, after the formal meeting of the government with the commission, so the formal opening of the negotiations, Albania will face itself with some benchmarks for the opening of the chapters. Now the methodology has changed. We don't have anymore an opening of chapter by chapter, but we'll go in groups, and most probably the first group that will all be placed in the table of discussions will be the chapter 23 and 24. And together maybe with some other chapters, most probably not chapter 22. And in order to say this, chapter 22 is not really negotiable with the EU. You don't negotiate chapter 22. Chapter 22 is either you do it or you don't do it. There's nothing to negotiate on chapter 22. Most of the chapters are like this, to be honest. The very few chapters you have something to negotiate, like environment or agriculture and food safety. So basically, what is needed to be said under this topic is the importance that, at least as regards the chapter 22, I would say that Albania has to ensure that the system for managing EU funds is ready to be entrusted, or as formerly known as accredited. So to be ready to ensure that the EU regulations that like the financial regulation or 1303 CPR regulation are implemented fully, correctly in Albania. And this is also very important for ATF, considering its role as a managing authority in Albania, or at least its intended role as managing authority in Albania, because this is on the Albanian side, to be clear on this. This does not mean that you shall recognize it as such. In order for you to recognize it as such, to entrust this body as such, a lot of other legal and regulatory reforms has to be undertaken for this to be ready. And when the time will come to discuss on the chapter 22 between EU and Albania, Albania should have ready all these reforms in order to proceed faster. I've seen a little bit, Mr. Benz will explain furthermore what should be ready on this, so I will not take part of his presentation. I will not speak about that, but I will go directly to topic 3, key differences between management system in pre-accession and post-accession. So I will take the functions one by one here. So we have programming during the EU instrument for pre-accession IPA, the annual programming with the financing agreement coordinated by the national IPA coordinator. We have an annual programming with financing agreement coordinated by the NIPAC. We don't have national operational programs, but a number of self-standing sectoral action documents. This is what programming means under IPA, while for EU structural and investment funds, SIF, we have a number of operational programs with a budget for 7 years adopted by the European Commission at the start of the programming period. We have to be sure that this is also linked with the entrustment of the authorities. So in order for Albania to go there, we should have the authorities entrusted. I don't think that, or at least in my knowledge, we have seen in the region countries like North Macedonia, which has had operational programs in environment, if I'm not wrong, and I don't know where else. I mean, social support, I don't know where else, but environment, I'm sure they had. And this is because the authorities, the North Macedonian Management Authority, and as relevant indirect intermediate bodies were entrusted by the Commission. We have one single case in Albania of such a program being operated, and it's the EPARD one. For rural development, we have entrusted body, we have a management authority and a paying agency there, which is functioning as it should be, as it is in an EU member state. So that's programming. The implementation, most of the decisions are under IPA. Most of the decisions are approved ex ante by the European Commission or European delegation, according to the relevance and the sum. Various contracting authorities like CFCU or EUD, we have both CFCU in indirect management with beneficiary country, or the EUD in the direct management, or we have delegated agreements with other bodies like UNDP. So it means that the EUD does not contract itself the assistance, but it delegates this authority to an international organization like UNDP, and they do the contracting authority for that specific assistance. While in the EU structural investment funds for the implementation, all the decisions are made and implemented by the member state, the managing authority, and its applicable intermediate bodies. The managing authority and the intermediate bodies are contracting authorities in a member state under the EU structural investment funds. For monitoring and evaluation, Under EPA, this is coordinated by the Ministry of Europe and Foreign Affairs. As I initially said, the monitoring process and evaluation, to be clear, evaluation only for the IMBC, because evaluation for non-IMBC, meaning the other implementation methods, is not done by the NIPAC and coordinated by the Ministry for Europe and Foreign Affairs, but is done by the European Commission and the delegated bodies. While for under the structural funds, they're organized by the monitoring evaluation is organized by the managing authorities, which also provide the secretariat to the monitoring committees. Co-financing under the EPA, variable rates depending on the annual financing agreement. So this is negotiated between the Commission and Albania for each financing agreement yearly, which are yearly agreed upon. While for the under the structural funds, there is one fixed rate agreed with the European Commission, generally at the same for all posts for 2004 EU member states. So meaning that that's all. Okay. Well, that's my presentation, and I will leave some room for question and answers after. Gladys, is that okay?
Yes, okay. Thank you, Florian. We have also a lot of questions, especially from Geron. We have already put some very challenging questions, but we will have time in the open discussions and recommendations. So without further delay, we give the floor to Mr. Benz for his presentation. Please, Mr. Benz, and thank you for participating in this working group.
So good morning, everyone. Hello from Slovakia. It's a pleasure for me to participate in this meeting. Let me introduce myself very quickly. I currently work for the World Bank on one specific project that is implemented here in the Slovakia. It's called Catching Up Region Initiative.
Unë jam pjesë e një iniciative që është financuar.
I'm also external evaluator of the projects, European funds projects within operational program integrated infrastructure. And I have like 15 years experience working with European funds. Let me present my presentation I prepared for today. And I also share it with organizers, and I also share with them like two more documents. One is very detailed document. It's more than 200 pages on the total on the system of the EU funds management in Slovakia. So maybe you can learn from it. And also I shared with you example of integrated regional operational program document. Both are in English. So you can see how the programming document for one operational program can look like. I believe that organizers will share those documents with you. So I will try to share my screen now. Okay, I don't know, can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay. Okay, so generally, I believe we are very, very similar countries. Slovakia is also a quite small country. We have 5.5 million of inhabitants. We are already members of the European Union, NATO, OECD, United Nations, World Trade Organization, and many other international organizations. We joined the EU in 2004. You know, we applied for the EU membership in already in 1992. But we received like invitation for negotiation only in 1998 after the change in the power and change of the government in Slovakia. I believe we're quite nice country. We have a lot of UNESCO sites, a lot of natural parks, wooden churches, and so on. But to understand the context of the regional policy and the situation in Slovakia, I would like to have some general context remarks. We are not just a quite nice country, but we are also very industrial country. Like industry makes like almost 30% of our GDP, and we are among 5 of the most industrial countries in the Europe. They started to call us as a cars producing nation, because we produce, and we are, as I said, a small country. We produce more than 1.1 million cars per year. Thanks to the EU accession, we receive huge foreign investments, especially into the car production industry. We have like 4 huge factories. They are mostly located in the western part of Slovakia. So you can see there the map. We have a huge Volkswagen factory. Also, Porsche Cayenne is produced there in our capital, Bratislava. There is a big factory, Peugeot Citroën. We have a Kia Hyundai factory, and we have a Land Rover. And as you can see, all these factories are located in the western part of Slovakia, close to Austrian borders or close to Czech Republic borders. Slovakia is also doing quite well in national convergence. Our GDP is almost constantly growing, and it's growing much faster than for instance, the old member states and other new EU member states. Only the 3 Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, are growing a little bit faster than Slovakia. But the main problem in Slovakia is that really we are the country, and even we are a small country, we face a huge regional disparities. In the EU, we are, I think, one of the 3 or 4th country that has the highest regional disparities. And you can see on the chart left that there is a huge difference between the capital Bratislava region located in the western part of Slovakia and other Slovak regions. The EU funds really play a very important role for Slovakia. As you can see on this chart on the right side, 70% of public investments in the last or since we joined the EU are covered by the EU funds. So we are mostly only co-financing the EU funds from our own state budget or from budgets of regional and local authorities. In regards the volume of the ESHI funds, and as Florian really pointed out well, after we joined the European Union, the available volume of EU funds really grown substantially, and we are receiving strong support from the European Union. As per capital, we are receiving the highest support after Estonia and Lithuania from the EU funds. However, and I have to frankly tell you, Slovakia is not the best example of spending of EU funds. We face very different type of problems in spending the EU funds. And as you see the current data from this programming period, only Spain is doing worse than Slovakia. From this programming period, which will end in the coming 2-3 years, we just spend only less than 40% of the funds available to Slovakia. we face, as I said, several problems and challenges of the regional policy. So it's really big disparities. We are totally dependent on European structural funds, which are very difficult to implement, and you will see it later on. We have, and I think it's a similar situation in Albania. The decision making on where the funds go is mainly decided in the capital, in Bratislava. However, like regional and local authorities have several competencies and responsibilities. For instance, region in Slovakia are responsible for social policy, for health policy. They are responsible for regional development. They are responsible, for instance, for maintenance of the roads of the second and third class. So they have a lot of different competencies at the regional level. However, the decision where the funds go is done at the national level. Generally, and unfortunately, and I think it's similar situation also in your country. We have elections every 4 years, and we have different governments that come and go. And Slovak regional policy is really missing some strategic political decision, what we want to do. For instance, in Finland, they have like 50-year strategy how to invest into innovation. Yeah. I think we have still, even after several years being a member country in the EU, chaotic institutional setup of the regional policy. It's getting better and better every year, but you will see later on in my presentation that, you know, like every ministry in Slovakia wants to get a piece from these funds and wants to, you know, decide where these funds go. Another issue, and I don't know how the situation is in Albania, but Slovakia is one of the countries that have a lot of municipalities. In total, we have more than 3,000 municipalities, and they have quite a strong power. We even have municipalities that have 12 inhabitants, but they have the similar competencies as the capital city of Bratislava, which has 500,000 inhabitants. They have the mayor, they have the local assembly, and they can decide where the money in their municipality goes. But this is a big issue because this is very ineffective system, and unfortunately, in the last 20 years, there was no government that was able to change this system. And a big problem, as you will see, we face with a really huge bureaucracy of the EU funds implementation, but it's mainly caused by Slovak institutions. It's not responsibility of the European Commission. There are also some other issues. For instance, we now, in the last 20 years, we now converged to EU level, but thanks to those assembly plants and foreign investments that came to Slovakia. But now we are deciding how to shift our economy for the knowledge economy. But we still have like a huge or high number of people who are unemployed. There are, for instance, Roma, there are young people, there are 50 plus or elderly people. So we are trying to find the best policy how to move forward, because I think we still need to invest into infrastructure, we still need to invest into assembly plants, but at the same time, we need to shift our economy into knowledge economy. Another issue is the problems between the center and between the villages. We can see out migration of the young people from rural areas to regional centers and bigger towns. So this is another like development challenge we are facing in Slovakia. As regards to our negotiations with the European Commission on the eve of our accession to the EC, this is really like very simple summary. So, and it happened many years ago, you know, this happened in 1998, 1999. So a lot of changes happened since then. So generally, if I can very quickly wrap up, you know, our position was really very weak during the negotiations. Our teams mainly just listened what the European Commission was telling them. And you know, like Commission was trying just to push Slovakia to really reform the country, to reform the institutions, and we just have to deliver. Yeah. One important lesson from this negotiation is that you really need to closely coordinate between different negotiation chapters. For instance, now we have a big issue to implement an environmental agenda. For instance, we still have a problem with the wastewater treatment in small municipalities. And during the negotiations, we agreed with the European Commission that until 2015, every village, every city in Slovakia will have functional wastewater treatment system, which is not true. We are in 2020, and we are still somewhere around 70% of this. Now we are going to pay fines to the European Commission because we are not fulfilling this deal we made already in 90 or in 2000, and we have to spend a lot of EU funds on this. Yeah, as you will see, like 3 or 4 billions euro is spent just to really fulfill this obligation. Generally, the delivery expected from the Commission is on several fronts. So as Florian said, really you need to harmonize the legislation. This is a huge agenda. For Slovakia, it was good that at the same time the Czech Republic was joining this, the European Union. The difference between our language and Czech language is not so bad. So, you know, there was an agreement between our two governments with the Czech Republic that, for instance, we translated half of the EU legislation, and the Czech translators translated another half of the EU legislation, and we could share, you know. So we tried to do it quite effectively in collaboration with the Czech Republic. You need to really set up the system and financial system, how, for instance, the funds can work, and it's also not an easy task, and you need to find and allocate adequate co-financing for the projects. You need to have institution in place, and then other issues, as Florian has mentioned, programming. There was a huge problem with personal capacities and so on and so on. Then I have a few slides about negotiations. It was not an easy process. First of all, we need to introduce this NUTS classification, which is like a classification of regions, official European statistic of these regions. I'm not sure if you already introduced it in Albania or not, but this was one of the first preconditions if you want to start about negotiation about this chapter. We produced like a first plan how we want to put in place the European structural funds in place in Slovakia, and how the whole system should function in Slovakia, but unfortunately it didn't fulfill all the criteria set by the European Commission, so it was not approved by the European Commission. We need to put in place firstly some new legislation, and we started to work on totally new document from March 2001. So as you see, it was not so easy process. But fortunately, in June 2004, when we were already a part of the European Union, the European Commission approved this a crucial programming document, this National Development Plan, and we could start to use the European funds. Just to compare, in the pre-accession period, we could use less than 200 million euro within 3 years. When we joined the EU in 2004, you can already see the substantial increase up to 1.2 billion euro of the support that we started to receive from the European Union. Our first period was quite successful. We draw all the money we received from the European Union. We focus on 4 operational programs. Mainly, we try to support industry and services. Also, because a lot of foreign investments were coming to Slovakia at the time. We try to support human resources because we faced huge unemployment. In some region, it was higher than 25–30% of unemployed people at that time. Currently, the unemployment is from 6 to 10% in Slovakia. We try to support farmers, agriculture, and rural development. And of course, we try to invest into basic infrastructure, mainly highways, but also this environment infrastructure, water, wastewater. In the next programming period, 2007–2013, we prepared like totally new strategy. It was called National Strategic Reference Framework. You can see even higher substantial support from the EU. We received more than 11 billion euro for this 7 years period, which is equivalent to almost 4% of the GDP. It's like 2.1 euro per capita. Our main focus was again on transport infrastructure. So now we are quite being criticized by the European Commission that we are spending a lot of money on this infrastructure, but it's needed. We also try to spend a lot of money on supporting competitiveness and economic growth and also other sectors. The problem with this period, 2007–2013 was, and as I mentioned in the beginning, we had a lot of, it was 11 operational programs. It was really difficult to coordinate, and there are several problems in implementation of the EU funds. Generally, we were not able to spend all the money, and we spent only 97% of those funds allocated for 2007–2013. If we speak about current programming period, 2014–2020, and this is very simplified structure. Generally, you as a member state are totally responsible how you spend your funds. You need to prepare, like the EC at the beginning of the programming period is preparing some strategic framework, how the EU funds, and it's for all EU countries, and they are trying to navigate you where you should invest. Each country is then negotiating on this strategic document, which is currently called the Partnership Agreement. This Partnership Agreement sets the priorities, how the funds should be spent. And then at your level, you need to prepare operational programs and you need to start to implement it. For these years, 2014–2020, the European Commission proposed 11 thematic objectives. So generally, you should address all these issues when investing with EU funds in your country. You have several funds that you can use for it, but you need to prepare your institutional setup at your country. So as Florian mentioned, you need to set up managing authorities, certification body, auditing bodies, and so on. This is how the simple model works. So generally, and how it works in Slovakia, we have a Ministry of Finance that is a certification, payments, and audit authority, and ministry is just sending requests for payments to the European Commission. Then you have like a general managing authority, which is Deputy Prime Minister Office, and currently it's being merged with Ministry for Regional Development and Investment. And then you have, depends on the number of operational programs, you have ministries responsible for implementation of the operational programs. They can have implementation agencies, for instance, in the regions. And then at the lowest level, you have applicants or recipients of the funds. Of course, there are many other stakeholders involved in the whole system. So this is just to show you the simple model. This is a model for one operational program, which shows you that it's not so easy to establish such systems, and you need to deal with many tasks. I don't want to go in deep, and Florian already mentioned several sentences, or we spent some time on this, what needs to be put in place. And as I told you, I shared with organizers the full document, how it works in Slovakia. So generally, you need to put in place like the management and implementation system. It's up to you if it's on national level or regional level and so on. In Slovakia, we have, as I said in the beginning, very centralized model. So generally, the main coordination body is Deputy Prime Minister Office. Then you have this audit certifying authority, which is Ministry of Finance. And then you have different ministries which are responsible for different operational program. You need to have in place several monitoring committees and coordination committees for each operational program and for the whole system. And then it's up to you how you set up the system at the regional level. Of course, the big issue is programming. You need to involve all the stakeholders. It's like companies or NGOs and so on. When you are trying to prepare the programs for each operational program, you need to have different types of documents and manuals that you need to prepare during this programming. And you also need to think how you would like to monitor and evaluate the whole system. Implementation is done mostly through the open calls. So it's kind of competitive environment, and all the applicants have to or eligible applicants can submit the projects. So probably you know it from the IPA. I assume also you are running several calls, but to put in place the whole system, you need to prepare those calls. You need to know how to deal with this approval process. You need to know how to respond in the appeal procedures. You need to set the whole infrastructure for the project implementation, and you have possibilities also for some special forms of implementation. The European Commission likes some and dislikes some. So for instance, in case of Slovakia, some ministries are using opportunity from the European legislation to use these national projects. These national projects are big projects that can be directly awarded to some agencies. But in Slovakia, we have a negative experience with this because it was corrupted, and mostly like state agencies were receiving funds for very costly projects. Yeah? Then you can have major projects that you need to consult with the European Commission or special agencies like JESPERS. These major projects are usually discussed in the first stage of the programming with the European Commission. So for instance, in case of Slovakia, it was projects for highways or for this wastewater infrastructure. The Commission likes the special program for rural areas, this community-led local development, CLD, and you can also use special financial instruments. Unfortunately, in Slovakia, again, it's very centralized, and these instruments are implemented through national agencies called Slovak Investments Holding. It's different, for instance, innovation voucher schemes provided to business sector. There are also many other important issues, and the system is really complicated. And as I said in the beginning, very bureaucratic. You need to put in place like eligibility of expenditure rules. The big problem that Slovakia is facing is with setting up the state aid and the de minimis aid rules for companies, because also EU funds can be spent for commercial sector, but each state aid must be approved by the European Commission. And it's not so easy to prepare such state aid scheme and to negotiate with the Commission. And of course, as Florian said, there are also those programs for territorial cooperation.
Nga ana tjetër kemi të programe europiane. Dhe përveç kësaj është e rëndësishme që ju të keni sistemin për monitorimin, vlerësimin, për votimin dhe për komunikimin. Pra duhet që të bëhet një proces i rregullt monitorimi, vlerësimi dhe
structures you need to put in place. So generally for this period, Slovakia, and you can see it again, is receiving even much higher amount of money than it was in period 2013-2020. It's more than 15 billions of euro. We reduced the number of operational program from those 11. Now we have like 7 main operational program. One is focusing on research and innovation. Another is focusing on integrated infrastructure, which is again roads, water, wastewater. Then you have OP human resources, so activities focusing on reducing the unemployment and job creation. Then we have a quite big program for improving the quality of environment. We have a very special integrated regional operational program that should help regions and municipalities to develop their infrastructure at a local level. We have a small program for effective public administration, mostly supporting like electronization and digitalization of the processes at the state level. And then there are special programs for rural development and fisheries, but we do not have a sea, so it's a very small program. Very quickly, a case study of a very special integrated regional operational program. It should support like regions and territories. It has like 6 main aims, and it's trying to support safe and ecological transport in the regions. It should support access to effective and higher quality of public services. Mainly it's like small reconstructions in the towns or villages, like local roads, sidewalks, and so on. Then there is a priority to mobilize the creative potential in the regions, mainly in supporting tourism and so on. And there are other activities supporting environment, and also you can see that there is some allocation for these CLDs, for this local development led by the community. This program is unique because all other programs are totally managed from Bratislava, from the central level. This program was prepared so that we have 8 self-governing regions, and they prepared their regional integrated territorial strategies. However, it ended there. You know, like the European Commission tried to motivate EU member states to also decentralize the management of the EU funds to regional and local level. In Slovakia, we just prepared the strategies, but then the system is again implemented and decided by the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry in Bratislava, and the ministry is really deciding which projects will be supported and which not. The regions can only you know, submit the projects and ask the ministry to approve them. You can see you know, like how the program is implemented. So you have this central coordination body, which is the Government Office of the Slovak Republic. The managing authority is Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. You have intermediary bodies at the regional level, but their role is mainly just coordinational, and they are doing this administrative control of the projects. Like as I said, the main decision on which projects will be supported and which not are done at the level of the Ministry of Agriculture. The similar case is Slovak Rural Development Program, which is a smaller program supporting mainly local governments and also farmers. They also have like 6 priorities. They're trying to support very small municipalities below 1,000 inhabitants. They're trying to support small farmers. I also wanted to show you, for instance, this agricultural paying agency, which is another huge structure that was created by ministry, and that is managing the implementation of the funds for these small municipalities and for the farmers. And this is the example of the evaluation sheet, how they evaluate the projects in this agency. So generally, and Slovakia is criticized for this model because you have some exactly exact indicators how you evaluate the project. So for instance, the rural status of the community, but then you have like another qualitative assessment, which is like 40%, and usually those 40% decide which projects will be supported and which projects will not be supported. So I'm also providing you with some useful links if you are interested in the Slovak system of the European funds. So for now, this is all from me. I thank you for your attention, and I would like to discuss details with you and respond to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Benz, for your detailed presentation. Very interesting, especially the figures and also the distribution, because we share many similarities in our country, the development to the center and to the regions. So very, very interesting. Now it's we have the floor open to the question. We already have some questions. Now we will switch back and forth in English or Albanian. Preferably would be in English because we will not have interpretation starting from now in 2 languages. So we can start with the questions written in the chat area. I don't know, I would ask Geron if these questions are directed to Florian, the first ones, I think, or to Mr. Benz. I don't know if we can have some...
Hello?
Yes, please, Geron.
Përshëndetje. Po, është dhe për Florin dhe për zotin Benz, të dy, pyetja e parë që lidhet më shumë për ecurinë, pra si do të jetë ecuria e fondit, ndoshta edhe dikush nga fondi shqiptar i zhvillimit, zoti Liriani, mund të jepte një përgjigje.
Okej, po I drejtojmë Florit atëherë fillimisht, duke qenë se përmendi për pjesën e ndarjeve të fondeve. Please, Florian.
So can you please repeat the question?
It's in the chat, but it's in Albanian.
I'm sorry, I cannot access the chat right now. So
okay. I will read it to you then. It's from Geron. It's from 2000 with a card, and until now, 2020 with IPA 2. Is there any statistic about that the majority of the EU funds has been directed towards justice and home affairs and justice reform sectors? This is the first question. Second is how long does it take, and how hard it is the accreditation process from the EU Commission to the managing authorities, Albanian managing authorities, to manage the structural funds?
Okay, I have my microphone open. So for the statistics, I don't have any accurate statistics for the period 2000 to now for democracy and governance and rule of law and fundamental rights. I mentioned that during the period 2014-2020, it's 20.9% of 639.5 million euros, but this is only for the annual country action programs. This does not include other programs, other EU programs or other donors. So basically it is more than this, but I don't have an actual figure to provide for this question. These figures should be public. Mr. Benz, Vladimir explained that one of the, because I forgot to mention this also, but one of the key points in programming of the EU assistance is the partnership principle. The partnership principle legally means that during the programming process, the government should, as the authority who prepares the program for the country, together with the European Commission, of course, should consult at least the civil society, the academia, the media, and the local government, and the business community. This is a must because, and it's a rationale behind this, because the program period is 7 years while the government power is 4 years. So the government change every 4 years, technically, while the programming period exceeds the government period. So basically it has to have a wider consensus, the program of the EU funds. This is one of the rationale. The other one is, of course, in democracy, this is one of the key principles. And the second question was, sorry, can you come again? The second question, please.
Well, regarding the accreditation process.
Okay, yes. Well, it used to be accreditation. Now it's the term used is entrustment. The entrustment of the managing authority and all other structures. Vladimir explained that because they are very similar. Now we have national authorizing officer in member state. It is called the certification body, the certification or the entrustment body. Let's say we have audit authorities both here and there. You know, then is an agency created by law, a separate agency. It's not within the Ministry of Finance. In a member state it can be different. It doesn't matter. The EU does not explicitly say that where it is, but in order to have the entrustment of the system, initially you have to ensure that the country, this is provided, everything, the criteria of entrustment are provided in the CPR regulation 1303. And of course, the EU financial regulation should also be fully compliant with, because it ensures that the management of funds is without the risk of fraud or risks, different risk of mismanagement of funds. The country should have a managing authority, alias a body that should should have full responsibility on managing the fund. Counting systems, the criteria is quite wide. Should have internal risk assessment. I kind of think there are too many. There are really too many criteria related to the entrustment procedure. But of course, the entrustment relates mostly to the implementation, to the management and auditing and monitoring and evaluation and communication and visibility and communication. Programming comes politically. So for programming, you don't, I mean, still this process of entrustment for the authorities involved in programming for the country, but it's the criteria are much less difficult to achieve, while for implementation really difficult to achieve, because you need the system in place that is compliant, as I said, to the CPR and to the financial regulation, EU, also procurement, etc., etc. But then you have also human resources, human capacities that are different. So you need numbers and capacity to implement those requirements. And of course, you have to have an internal control system which produce accuracy and reliability in managing the EU funds. So, I mean, I cannot mention all of them because that's huge. I mean, you need a year to explain everything. But the fact that Albania has only 10.84% of the funds managing by the entrusted body, which is the CFCU, the audit authority, the national fund, is an evidence that how much trustable is the system in Albania. To compare it in Serbia, for example, this amount, if I'm not wrong, goes beyond 60%. So in indirect management, Serbia is managing more than 60% of funds.
If I may answer the second question, as I show you, before we joined the EU, it took us like 3 years to put in place the whole system. Now we are more advanced, but still it's a huge process. For instance, we already started preparations for the next programming period for 21-27. Like Commissioner or European Commission already provided like the strategic framework in March 2019. Slovakia started to work on the new programming period from October 2019. We are a year after. It's October 2020, and we have still almost final proposal of the partnership agreement that is just being discussed with the general public and other stakeholders. Yeah, the Slovak government, it's again late. They're complaining of the COVID situation and so on. And the plan of our government is really to submit this partnership agreement proposal, which defines the whole system, to European Commission in early January, February next year. So officially the new programming period is starting from January 1st, 2021, but we will just start to negotiate this partnership agreement with the European Commission maybe in February. I think it will take like 3-4 months to negotiate with the Commission. When we agree and when we sign this partnership agreement, I believe it will be June, July next year. We will need to put in place operational program. We decided for the next programming period that we will have only 3 operational programs. So again, we are trying to reduce the number of operational programs that can help us to really more effectively implement the funds. So it's not an easy process and it takes time, but it mainly depends on you, how quickly you can prepare and deliver. Yeah, the EC is mostly in the reactive mode. Once you send them the proposal for partnership agreement, they will review and they start to negotiate with you.
Okay, thank you.
We have another question. I think Florian, it's for you, but I don't know if you can answer it. Is regarding the co-financing and the reimbursement of funds, of IPA funds from the Albanian institutions. What steps should be taken to increase the capacity, the absorbing capacities to have a higher implementation of the projects funded by IPA funds?
Well, if I understood well the question, then I'm sorry I cannot access the chat because of problem with my computer right now. The co-financing is already foreseen in the financing agreement. So basically, the Albanian government during the endorsement of the financing agreement, there is a process leading to the endorsement of the financing agreements from the Albanian government, of course, by the Commission. On the other side, this process of discussion kind of provide also the sum of the co-financing of the Albanian government. But this has not been a problem in the level of absorption. So the discussion per se, the biggest problem in absorbing EU funds, if we're speaking for technical assistance and investments for the public, I'm not speaking about grants for the civil society, etc. here, because we also need to specify, to link the question to a specific way of implementation of a specific program. But we are speaking to the annual country action program. We would say the biggest problem is the reimbursement of the VAT, and this is also linked. I tried to mention it somewhere in my presentation that during the programming process, the specific role is given to the IPMGs, which is or to the planning and strategic to the strategies, Albanian strategies, and to the Prime Minister office, who together with the Minister of Finance ensure that the EU assistance is goes hand in hand or is completed by or in the same line with the medium-term budgetary program, MTBP. So basically, when an action document for linking specific action, EU action, with a specific sector, for example, environment, the Ministry of Infrastructure in this case, because it's that does the investments also in environment, should foresee a specific budgetary voice in its budget, yearly budget, covering the VAT or the co-financing for that specific action document. Here, because I don't know how to call this, because of emergencies in the sector, the government tend to move, to shift funds from one voice to another in the budget. So sometimes we have problems in having the relevant co-financing fund, let's say, for that specific action. But this is an example. I mean, I don't have here an actual fact, let's say, but from my experience, this is the biggest problem in co-financing and of course reimbursing the VAT. It's not the same in all ministries. Some ministries perform better, some ministries perform worse, but this is the biggest problem here. Another, if I may, before going to Vladimir, another problem, because Vladimir mentioned it, the role of the local government. So the local government has is end recipient of many investments. For example, there is a specific project under IPA 1, which was the water facility of the municipality of Vlora in Albania, which was funded by the EU under IPA 1, if I'm not wrong, 2011 action document. And the end recipient, but during the programming and during the implementation, there were no discussion with the local government, which was the end recipient of this facility. And the end recipient had not foreseen any budgetary instrument in its budget to manage and maintain the operation of this water facility. So it was impossible for the local government to accept the delivery of such the delivery of this facility, for example. So, and this is linked with one structural problem, the functioning of what is called the operating structure. When the system was created, there was not a specific operating structure for this action document. And the local government was not part of this operating structure. So basically, the local government was introduced to this action at the end, at the time when they should receive the facility, which made for them impossible to receive it. It is solved, but it's still solved politically, not by the system. So the system could not solve it. So there was a major political decision to solve this situation. So this is a big problem, let's say, also in terms of absorption of funds. Yes, Vladimir, please.
Okay, if I may react, I think absorption it's a little bit different way or different issue as the co-financing. There are, I think, many other factors. How we resolve the problem of the co-financing in Slovakia. For public entities projects like municipalities or self-governing regions or state agencies, the Slovak government decided that they will co-finance the project by 10% from the state budget. So generally, you have like 85% for public projects are financed from the European funds. 10% is a contribution from the state budget, and only 5% is co-financing from the municipality level, for example. Yeah. So this is how we in Slovakia resolve the issue of the co-financing. For commercial project, there is difference. Yeah, there is 50% European funds and 50% are funds from the company. Yeah. So generally, we do not have big issue with co-financing issues in Slovakia. The problem with absorption we have in Slovakia is related to project preparation. One of the biggest issue we have is public procurement processes. We have really very complicated public procurement law. And when you want to apply for EU funds, for instance, for some infrastructure project, you need to have a valid construction permit. So I just give you a very simple example. We are just now helping to construct one cyclopath in the national park here in Slovakia. Yeah, besides environmental impact assessments, because it's located in the national park, and this is really time-consuming process. It took our client, self-governing region, 6 months to procure designer of this trail. Now the designer is working on the design. It takes him another half a year. It's just 16-kilometer long cycling trail. When he finished the detailed design, probably they will need like another half a year to do public or tender the company that can construct this cycling trail. During that time, they can submit the project. They need to wait like 3-4 months for the construction permit process. When they submit the project, it takes 1 year at the ministry, because they do not have sufficient capacity to check all these procurements. And this is why Slovakia is not a very successful example of the effective EU fund spending, because we have insufficient capacities for public procurement control at the managing authorities. So it takes you minimum 2 years to get to the level where you can start to construct something. And this is really a simple project. Yeah? You can imagine if you want to build a new school or construct a highway, it takes even much longer time. So main problem with the absorption are these other factors, not co-financing in the Slovakia case.
Thank you, Mr. Benz. We have another question from Garon. Well, this is about IPA 3. What will be the prioritization if it's going to be focused on the first cluster of fundamentals first, which is rule of law, fundamental rights, etc. And what would be the dedication of funds towards infrastructure, connectivity, SMEs, energy, innovation, etc. And what about the capacities of project writing? So it's a 3-part question. I don't know, regarding the quality of project, maybe projects also from the Albanian Development Fund, maybe we can get some feedback on because they work directly with projects. I don't know who would likes to answer to this, or parts.
I may.
Yes.
I may answer to the, or at least I'll try to give an answer, not what Geron expects, but some answer for the first part of the question. IPA 3 is being, so the priorities for financing under IPA 3 has just been, like a week ago, has been submitted from the Albanian government to the Commission. There are more or less 53, if I'm not wrong, action fiches. I don't recall them. I just should have something, but this is still not being publicized, so it's not public yet, the document, as it's not agreed by the European Commission yet. It's still being assessed by the European Commission. As Vladimir said, the European Commission has its own agenda, has its own priorities, and of course, our priorities should lay on the same areas of support the Commission will provide, the European Union will provide. But to the question, I mean, in answer to the question that if this is going to be supporting from justice and fundamental first, I would say that 1 or 2 action fiches are related to that. The level of support, so how much it will be support, is not yet decided. Nevertheless, there is a crucial point to this. In terms of importance, it represents the link between what you negotiate under the accession talks and what is supported by the EU funds. Mr. Benz mentioned the water treatment, the sewage, the water treatment system in Slovakia, and in Albania has also been an assessment of a rough estimation of what the country needs in terms of adopting and implementing the acquis on wastewater treatment in Albania. And the figure that came out is roughly 6 billion euros. So it's a huge sum for Albania, considering the Albanian GDP and the annual budget. So basically, I would say that it's important when programming to check what we have discussed, what commitments we have taken, and how do we program the financial assistance, or what we prioritize. The two things should go hand in hand. They cannot go separated. So that's my answer, let's say.
Okay, if we don't have, we can go to the next question, which is it IPA 3? Sorry, I have to read it. Okay, if IPA 3 is going to be connected with Neighborhood Development International Cooperation Instrument. I don't know if Florian or Mr. Benz.
I don't have an answer to this.
Okay.
I'm not an expert on IPA, sorry.
Mm. Okay, so we exhausted the questions in the chat. I don't know if we have, as we are running to the end of this session and working group, if we have any other comments or feedbacks on the topics from the participants.
If I may, maybe I have more technical question. What's your plans? How do you want to continue in discussing within this working group? If you plan any other sessions, and if I may participate, I would appreciate it. I would welcome if maybe you can send in advance questions you like to deal with in your further discussion within this working group.
Yes, thank you. Yes, of course, we are going to continue. We have for another 3 working group meetings within this chapter. So, of course, as we have discussed, that there were a lot of issues initially we thought to discuss for the first session, which we could not manage because there are too many. Even the issues that we discussed today, there are a lot of follow-up questions and topics which can be further elaborated of interest. But yes, for sure, in the next session, maybe we can get some questions before, so to address it during the presentations, and together with the Albanian Development Fund, we can elaborate more the topics of interest. Now that we have the general picture from your presentation and that of Florian's, we can go in further details on some of the topics which are relevant to the Albania place, or let's say step in the EU integration process. IPA 3 is very interesting because the planning and everything is being decided now these weeks. And of course, there are changes that Albanian institutions would need to adapt to in the coming years. So I think this would be one of the issues which will be of interest to tackle. But we are going to discuss together with Florian and also with the Albanian Development Fund to see what would be the next topic of interest for the next session. And of course, we will be pleased to have you again, and thank you for your availability.
Can you maybe, if you have English version of this IPA 3 proposal, can you share with me so I can
right
and have more information from Albania?
I mean, Glenys, you can share the material I prepared with Mr. Benz, and for IPA 3, I would say that there is not much provided by the Commission yet. Of course, there is. Well, me and my colleague have prepared a roadmap, a concept note on IPA 3, listed some general information, but that's where we are. There are prepared, as I said, the priorities, a set of priorities, but I cannot share. I have them, but I cannot share for the time being, since they are still a matter of discussion. So that's all we have. We don't have a framework agreement. We have a guideline on IPA 3, just that by the Commission. The Commission is really late due to COVID-19 situation. At least this time, it's not the fault of Albania.
Okay, so we will. I will thank you, all of you, for the participation and the Albanian Development Fund. Okay, yes, please, Garen.
Yeah, if you can have the presentations of Vladimir and Florian, if it's possible.
Yes, yes, of course. We'll send after we close the session all the materials. Also, apart from the presentation, Mr. Benz has also a few documents he mentioned that we are going to send to all of the participants in the emails that we got from your registration in the session. But if anyone is not directly registered, could please send an email so we can again send all the information. So I'd like to thank all of you for the participation, and of course we'll be notified for the next session, as we are going to prepare the topics, and also we're going to send in few days the recommendation, let's say, or issues that we discussed today, a short description of what have been discussed in this first session of working group. If there is nothing to say from the participants, I would then close the session. Again, thanking you for all your attention in this 2 hours of this working group. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please stay safe and have a nice weekend.
Yeah, you too.
Everyone.
See you.
Bye.
Bye. Goodbye.